Hey guys, jumping in to make a quick announcement before the show starts. We are going to do our annual New Year's Day hangout. This year, we're going to be at Turnstile right next to the stadium, 2 p.m. on January 1st. So it's a fun little tradition that we've done to celebrate the fact that we have a team to gather around and also celebrate the people that we've met through that team. So it's kind of a special day for us. It's been a really great time every year. So come hang out. We'd love to see you. We're also going to be doing Moon Tower After Dark next week. So if you want to submit a question for us to drunkenly answer, it can be about Austin FC. It can be about whatever, pretty much. And Mike's going to sort through those, pick the best ones, and answer a drunken Jeremiah, Landon, and Stephanie on Mike. So find that link in the show notes. I think that is all. So I will let the show go forward. The next thing you're going to hear is my nephew doing the intro of the show, which is extremely cute. So enjoy.
Hello, friends. Thanks for listening. Moon Tower Soccer.
The presenting sponsor of Moon Tower Soccer is FVF Law.
To find out what makes FVF a different kind of injury law firm, you can visit fvf.law.
Hello, friends. Thanks for listening to Moon Tower Soccer. This week, we are going to cover a huge week of news in Austin FC player movement. I know we said last week that we were not going to do a show this week, but just when we thought we were out, they pulled us back in. My name is Landon Cottom, and I'm joined, as always, by Mr. Jeremiah Bentley.
Hey, everybody. I'm Jeremiah Bentley. I am in my back bedroom, where I normally am, because we won't travel until tomorrow, surrounded by wrapping paper and scissors and gifts and bags and all the stuff, and probably the wife who would like to get back in here and finish that before we leave and would like me out of here. You are not at home, but are somewhere else.
I'm currently in Fort Worth in the upstairs bedroom at my parents' house. We'll be traveling to Oklahoma tomorrow. So on the road, doing in my my mobile recording unit here.
Let's just get into it, man. I think that there's no dallying around with the news of the week. We can talk about basically 4 player moves, one of which we knew a lot about, but we didn't know all the details about. And then the other there's a few other things that happened or were speculated about, and that we can save that for a future show. So we can kind of get through what is, I don't know, one of the newsiest weeks for players in Austin FC history that happened to be this week.
Yeah, it truly is. And it's like we got all of that information in a handful of days. And then the last couple of days have been dead silent, and they can't just like cut us off cold turkey like that, Jeremiah. It's
right.
It's not safe.
These out. Yeah. So I'll start with the very first one, and this is one that we pretty much knew about last week when we recorded the show. This is John Bell joining Austin FC. The details we did know is, I'll just give you sort of the transaction. Austin FC announced that the club signed free agent defender John Bell as his first edition of the 2026 offseason. Bell joins the Verde and Black on a deal guaranteed through June 2028. with an option for the 2028-2029 season. So first of all, through June 2028 threw me off because I'm used to these deals being through December. But this deal is like, I guess, the first one we've seen where we're going to be post-schedule change.
Yeah, very much makes the schedule shift feel real, doesn't it? To see, was it 2.5 year, 3.5 year contract? Like, that's weird.
Yeah, it is. We speculated that maybe he wouldn't be a senior roster designation. He ends up doing that, so that's not too much of a surprise, I don't think. One thing that I noticed in between last week and this week is if you look at his age and sort of experience in the league, he tracks pretty closely to Julio Cascante when Julio Cascante came to Austin before the 2021 season. So he's 28 as opposed to 27, so he's a few months older, has a few more games of experience, but just as far as time around the league, number of starts, things like that, he's pretty close to Julio. And, I mean, you noted that's probably good for Austin.
The difference is that we're not expecting John Bell to come in and be one of the main starters for the next 5 years. Like, he is being signed for depth. I'm almost certain that's how Roto is viewing him. So I'll call that an upgrade. We don't know the number yet, but we're guessing it's much cheaper than what Julio Cascante was on towards the end of his tenure here.
Yeah, not for sure. We expect it'll be a lower number. Then these next two, they were kind of rumored around the same time, but we'll go on Thursday afternoon. We get news that Austin FC announced that Jaden Bell has been added to the club in a trade with the Vancouver Whitecaps.
Try again.
Jaden Nelson. Why did I say Bell? Oh my gosh. Yeah, because we're just talking about John Bell. All these J names. Jaden Nelson in a trade with the Whitecaps. In exchange, Austin sent $700,000 in 2026 GAM $550,000 in 2027 GAM, and its 2026 MLS Superdraft pick to Vancouver. And Vancouver retained a percentage of a future trader transfer sell-on fee. So this is 23 years old, spent last season in Vancouver, scored a goal and tallied 3 assists in the win over Portland totally, but scored 3 goals and 11 assists over the course of the season. Interesting move in. Do you want to talk about this before we go to the corresponding move out, or at a high level, what do we should expect from him?
Let's go through all the transactions first, and then we can dig further into who these guys are and how we think they fit, and then try to answer some questions, because I think all of these raise some questions about what Austin FC is, what direction they're trying to move in, and which players might be on the way out next. I think it raises those questions. So I think they're too big to space out. So let's get through all the transactions first and then go back into that stuff.
Okay, let's do that then. Okay, so move 3. This is Friday afternoon, around noon. Austin FC announced today that the club reached an agreement with Polish side Widzew Lutz for the trade.
I looked this one up. Widzew Lodz.
Widzew Lodz. I would never have gotten Lodz out of Lodz, although there's a bunch of, there's a different type of accent mark on almost every letter in that word. This is Osman Bukari. No specifics on this one, but since Austin receives a record transfer fee from the Polish club, the rumors, I guess, that we've heard is it's around $6.5 million, which gets pretty close to making Austin whole on the Bukari transfer, which I think has to be considered a win.
Absolutely. That is insane. Their initial reports were 5 million euros, the initial reports out of Poland. Even with that number, I was like, great. Because that is, when you do the conversion, that is closer to, it's like $5.87 million. And so it is close to 6, even at the rumored amount. But when it comes out, Boger is now reporting that it's $6.5 million. Yeah, we paid 7, so we're losing out on $500K. Compared to what people were expecting it was going to take for Austin to open a DP spot, that is crazy. That is super unexpected. Yeah, I think part of the reason is that Widzew Lodz apparently just got bought last year or so by a super rich new owner, and this is a league record in the Polish league. So I think the next highest one was $3 million or something on an incoming transfer. So this is a statement move for this team, who is not even one of the big Polish teams. And so it's Rodolfo Borrell. I think there's plenty to criticize him about and plenty of questions open as to what kind of a job he's doing here in Austin. But one thing that he has shown that he can do is take a distressed asset that you don't think you're going to be able to get a really good deal for and do exactly that, get more money on a sale. Look at Driussi. He only wanted to go to one team. It felt like we were over a barrel on that one, and he ended up getting negotiating up a really good price. Same with Johan Romagna. That was one of his first outbound ones. And then this Bukari move, it's that is one thing he's been excellent at so far.
Yeah. One other note in this release that I think we'll put a pin in for the questions part of it, because this is something I have not seen in a release like this before. It says, additionally, the move gives the club the option to construct its 2026 roster either via the U22 initiative model, 2 designated player slots, 4 U22 slots, an additional GAM, or the designated player model, 3 designated players, and 3 U22 initiative slots. Feels like a message is being sent with the fact that this is even brought up.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know that it necessarily means that's the way we're going. Should we dig into this right now, or should we save this for later?
Let's go ahead and save this for later. Let's save this for later too, but let's just make sure to come back to it and make sure that everybody knows that's listening that this is a big point that means a lot about what we can expect about the future of this club, at least the near future of this club.
Yeah,
so
and whether or not we will get another third DP is the big question, right?
Yes. So then the last move here, which is not confirmed yet, but Tom Bogert and the Pioneer Press out of Minnesota reporting that Minnesota United left back Joseph Rosales is going to move to Austin FC. So Resi reported as a giant chunk of GAM, $1.5 million in GAM maybe. Bogert walked it back and said, well, maybe this is a cash sale, an in-league cash sale, which we just started seeing last offseason. So that is move number 4 of 4.
All right, so
let's start?
Dig back in. I don't think we need to cover John Bell anymore. I think we're good there. Let's start with Bukari. I think that's kind of the biggest news here. I think one of the big questions with with Bukari that I've seen with this transfer is, of the 3 DPs, Bukari was probably the best performing one. Like, he was the one that if you were going to say this guy's going to have a big season next year, of our 3 DPs, you'd probably pick Osman Bukari. So why are we selling him and not one of the other guys? And I think it's a matter of opportunity, right? Like, okay, we have the 3 DPs. They don't really fit together. In order to bring in some pieces that maybe do fit and make these guys better, you need to move one of them. Okay, which one do you want to move? How about the one that hasn't played and will not play for the next few months? Brandon Vasquez is injured. Nobody's going to take an injured player on a sale. Okay, let's go to Uzuni. His salary and price tag and age are such that it's a difficult asset to move also. Okay, where do you go next? The only one left is Osman Bukari. So I don't think it's fair to him to be the one who's going to move, but he was just the only option. And so if I think this is, I know some people are upset about this. I find it encouraging that Roto and company are trying to improve the roster. They're not just saying, okay, this didn't work last year, but I think if we bring in a couple of draft picks and supplemental spots, maybe it'll be better this time. Like, he's not saying that. He's making big swings and saying, no, we can't sit still. We have to make big moves. And he's going out and trying to make big moves.
Yeah, and I think the most reality-based thing about Bukari, which is disappointing, is this number totaled 50 appearances in all competitions in a season and a half in Austin, recording 6 goals and 10 assists. So while I think a large part of Bukari not being more productive is probably not his fault and is probably more attributable to what's going on around him, I mean, the numbers are there to show that, like, he was not a terribly successful Austin FC player as much as we loved him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you want to talk about the family angle to this too? Is that
Yes.
came up?
Yeah, where did we get this from? This is reports. I think this is when he's from Poland, when he signed there and was announced.
When they announced him. Yeah.
He made some statements there saying that, I think there was some, I don't know if this was like officially reported or kind of through the grapevine, that his wife was unable to get into the country. And so that was part of it. And so he partially wanted to go back to Europe for family reasons. And so that was part of the reason why. I think also, like, if you read between the lines here, of like a team like Widzew Łódź, like if they were offering money to a lot of different MLS players, say, that maybe like other higher profile guys that they could have gotten for the same amount of money probably wouldn't have been interested in going to the Polish league. Whereas someone in Bukari's situation, where he's just saying, I want to get back to Europe for family reasons. I need a change of pace. I need a fresh start. This club has a bunch of money and I'm probably not going to take a pay cut on it. Sounds like a great deal. Whereas it might not sound as good to a different MLS player in a different situation. So I think there's a lot of things kind of coming together, not just Roto pushing him out or singling him out to push him out, but the opportunity, and then also the player wanting to maybe make a move as well for other reasons.
Yeah, and you don't want to have a guy who doesn't want to be here for various reasons. It's unfortunate that sort of the way things are going, that players from certain parts of the world seem to have more trouble being here than not. But it also speaks to what a good deal Roto made. It's just you've taken a guy who had reasons to want to go back to Europe and didn't take like a fire sale price for him just to give him the opportunity to go back closer to home.
I think now let's talk about the roster restructuring. So you mentioned this statement that the club put in the press release about selling Bukari. Just a quick recap. There's 2 designated player models you can go after. We'll call one the DP model, which is you can have 3 DPs, 3 U22 players under that model, or the U22 model, where you can have 2 DPs, 4 U22 players. I think this next point is the most important part here, which is you also get $2 million in additional GAM to use. Looking at the moves that Austin is making, Roto had, like, how many times has Roto talked about not having enough allocation money to go out and get the players that he wants, not having enough cap space to go out and get the players that he wants. This is like he's spending a lot of money on these players right now. And so if you look at the Nelson move, the Rosales move, like that money's coming from somewhere. That might mean he's counting on that $2 million extra dollars in GAM right now. Meaning we get to use $2 million extra dollars in GAM. We can go out and trade for Jaden Nelson. We can have 3 fullbacks on the roster for the time being, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But what it means you can't do is replace Bukari with a designated player. How do we feel about that?
Believe that every single person listening to this show, including the two people hosting it, would love to be able to reallocate those funds to a playmaker, be that hopefully a midfielder. So I'm going to be disappointed in that way, but I think you have to go back to what you said earlier about there's only so many maneuvers that Biro can make with this roster to improve it. And this is one way to try to make significant difference in improving it, is making this move and letting Bukari go. But I've been wrong before, so maybe I will be again. But I'm not holding out hope that a third DP is walking through that door.
And I think people saying, okay, we can use under this U22 model, maybe you're saying, well, at least we can maybe buy some young, exciting players. But right now, we only have the one senior roster spot available. And so even to do that, like to use all of our upside on these U22 slots, we would still need to make some outbound moves. To your point about like hoping for a DP to walk through the door, I don't think we should entirely rule that out, because I think we're probably like one bigger sale or two medium sales or trades away from having enough allocation money to do these kinds of moves, right? Like if we sell Owen Wolf and are able to turn that into $3 million in GAM, boom, that pays for these moves instantly. And then maybe you do have the room to go out and get a DP. But until that happens, it's hard to know where this money is coming from. So I think there's still a lot of questions. I think it also still means that Rodolfo Borrell is not done this transfer window. Like, I would expect at least 2 more outgoing moves. And then for every outbound move, I would expect an incoming move as well.
Yeah, one thing on the U22s, just so everybody knows, the only 2 that currently exist are Djordjevic and Dubasarski for Austin FC. So regardless of model, there's at least one U22 spot available. The other thing you talked about was bringing in a lot of new interesting players. I would say we've got, these 2 guys, Sean Kolmanich, was Musa Jite U22? I mean, the history of U22s for Austin FC does not look like a lot of guys who have been significant contributors to the club.
And that is true across the league as well. Most teams have not gotten a ton out of their U22s. There have been some success stories, though, so maybe we can turn one into them. But if we're saying, okay, we have one U22 spot and we're expecting that guy to come in and be this chance creator that we've all been wishing for, like, that doesn't feel like a thing I want to hang my hat on.
Yeah, that would be a heavy burden and an unreasonable expectation on that guy, because the people that can do that are expensive, and you don't get them through. Typically, you can help grow them, or you can spend a bunch of money on them, but you don't typically get them through like a U22 initiative.
One thing that this is, I think I first saw this being peddled by Mike Crignola and him just wishing this into existence, but his dream move is to do a cash transfer for Diego Luna and make him a U22 player. And it would work, right? Like if it's U22, the transfer fee doesn't count towards the salary budget. And so you can pay whatever cash trade transfer for him you want to, make him a U22, pay him whatever you want to, and he only hits it $250K to the budget charge, right? So it would work if we could do it. Whether or not like RSL would listen to that and be willing to sell him, or if we could meet the asking price, like that's a whole other question. But it is a really intriguing idea, and I would not be shocked if Rodolfo Borrell has called RSL and offered to do that. Like he can't make them say yes, but he can ask. And it sounds like from these moves that he's making right now, he's asking people questions, right?
Yeah, and he's using every mechanism available to him to do it too, because each one of these moves there's a little bit of a difference. There's a little bit of nuance to each of them, right? In terms of if it's believed that this is a cash transfer on the last one, but like the mechanism used, what the assets made available, like the way he's allocated the money, like they're all a little bit different. So he's using all the creativity he can in order to make this club better right now.
Roto's a bigger MLS sicko than we are, Jeremiah. He loves this stuff.
He loves it, and
I think he's like trying to use every single roster mechanism just to say that he did.
And he never tires of making sure that we all know that he knows all this stuff too.
Moon Tower Soccer is brought to you by our friends at FVF Law, the official injury lawyers of Austin FC.
FVF is a different kind of personal injury law firm dedicated to community, transparency, and client education. And they have their own podcast called Summary Judgment. You can check it out wherever you get your podcasts.
You can go to FVF.law to find out what makes FVF a different kind of injury law firm and why understanding your legal options can dramatically change the outcome of a case. Once again, that's FVF.law. Amplify Credit Union is a member-owned financial cooperative that served the needs of Central Texans for over 5 decades. As a credit union, Amplify has no shareholders or parent companies. That means more of your money stays in the community.
Amplify has been the home of fee-free banking since 2022. Their free checking accounts come with 0 overdraft fees or minimum balance. That means Amplify's fee-free checking accounts help you get more mileage from your everyday spending.
Amplify membership is open to any Texas resident. Learn to trust your bank again at Amplify Credit Union. To learn more, go to www.goamplify.com/moontower-soccer. Okay, should we move on to the 2 inbound players now?
Yes. Sorry, I forgot the order of acquisition. So, yes, let's go to, I want to say Jaden Daniels now. God, I'm getting terrible. I'm on Christmas mode. Be the quarterback for the Washington Commanders.
It's
Also
like
Jaden Nelson.
every North
Jaden
American
Nelson.
man under the age of 25 is named Jaden or Braden or Caden or something that rhymes with that.
Yeah, okay. What are we expecting out of Jaden Nelson?
Okay, Jaden Nelson is a 23-year-old winger. He is Canadian, was born in the footballer-producing city of Brampton, Ontario. I came up through the Toronto FC Academy, got a homegrown contract in 2020, had a good season for Toronto, good couple of seasons for Toronto, was transferred to Rosenborg in Norway at the age of 20. Really strong first season, took a downturn in his second season and was sent on loan to a 2 Bundesliga team. That didn't go well either. And so decided to start looking for moves back to MLS. Came to Vancouver last winter. Vancouver bought him from Rosenborg. And he had kind of a breakout year with the Whitecaps this year. One thing that, like, I'll get into why he's available, what we think about this trade. I think one thing I want to talk about is that I think Austin fans are going to like this kid. He plays with a lot of fight, plays with a lot of energy, just has a play style that is fun to watch. But I found this video that I think was released just earlier this year where it was like made public. I don't think he had talked about this a lot publicly in his professional career, but he was diagnosed with cancer as a child, like 18 months old, went into remission. It came back as he was like 4 or 5 years old, spread into his lungs. The doctor said he's probably never going to be able to play sports. One of his nurses found a soccer ball at the hospital, and it kind of became like his soccer ball. And so he would come in and play with that ball every time he was at the hospital. And so in this video, they interview his mom. And when I'm going to get all choked up reading this. When Jaden was struggling in Europe, he said that like it wasn't fun anymore. Like I was having a hard time being in a new country, being down, being so young, having these expectations on me. Like I was having a hard time. And he talked to his mom and she reminded him of that soccer ball at the hospital and said, like, you need to find your joy again. And comes back to Vancouver and watch this kid on the field and tell me he's not having fun playing this game. So it seems like a good dude, good personality, cute Canadian accent. I think Austin fans are going to like him.
That's awesome. Hey, one other thing in this release that we did talk about, it says Nelson will occupy senior and international designations, which would leave Austin no international spots, but we do not believe that to be the case.
Yes, MLS insider Seth Rowell says that he has heard this, and I've heard this discussed elsewhere as well. Like they're expecting Canadians not to take up international spots anymore, meaning that we are currently 1 over, right? We have 9 people on international roster spots, or was that not true with Bukari gone?
I think that got us to 8 of 8. Back
That
to
got
8
us-
of 8.
So which is the maximum without trading for another one. So we're full up now, but yeah, we're expecting Nelson's to open up when that rule is announced.
And just Hunter Obergen is also one of those 8s. There's always there's other ways that you may be able to make international slots available.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about why Jaden Nelson is available, because I think like Austin has gotten some players because other teams just straight up didn't want him, or they're like past their prime or whatever. It's not quite the case with Jaden Nelson, right? Manuel Veith, who is a German guy working for Transfermarkt, but is based in Canada. And so he kind of has connections and will break Canadian soccer news at times. But he said that Nelson was wanting more playing time. I don't think that's too big of a leap to make either for a young kid who's looked really good when he was on the field this year, but had Emmanuel Sabi and Ali Ahmed in front of him on those right and left wings for Vancouver. Those two players were great this year. And so he wasn't going to be a regular starter there. Vancouver's probably feeling some cap pressure as well after a successful season. When you have a season this good, some of these guys who are on low contracts and are getting to the end of a contract are going to want to get on a big contract, right? Like, and then also performance bonuses, things like that. You saw it with the Galaxy. They had a fire sale right after they won MLS Cup. So Vancouver's not quite in the dire situation that the Galaxy was, but they're going to need to make some moves. And so if you got a young, promising winger who's not your starter, yeah, cash in on him. So I think that's why he was made available, but it's also why Austin paid so much for him, right? Was it a total of 225 spread over 2 years in GAM?
2.5.
Oh, 1.25, sorry.
Yeah. And it's 2026 MLS Super Draft pick, which is whatever you value that at.
Getting into what kind of player he is, he's a buzzy winger, always active, always moving. And I think this is like, he's a profile that I don't know that we've ever really had. Like, is there anybody else you think you would call buzzy on any of our teams? You might can say that about Diego Fagundes, but like, he was active and always moving, always finding the ball, but Diego was not necessarily very fast. Nelson is quick, active, energetic, but also has that straight line speed, can get in behind a back line, can receive the ball in transition, and carries the ball with speed as well. So that's the thing I really like about him as well. What else do we need to cover about him? Like, I guess his position.
Yeah, I wanted to get into that, and maybe let's do the Rosales one, and then maybe get into where everybody's going to sit.
Positions holistically, because they all kind of lean into each other, right?
Yeah.
Joseph Rosales, you already gave the details here. He is a 25-year-old fullback / wingback, very attack-minded, though, likes to get forward. Honduran international. He joined the Panamanian club Independiente when he was 18, loaned to Minnesota at 21, and then made the move permanent after that, and has been there for the last, I think, 4.5 years. Has had a really strong MLS career, really well-respected player, really good player in the league, and has become a fixture for the Honduran national team. Like, he's their nailed-on starter at left back there. He had some reports and links to European teams, to some Mexican teams, and for various reasons, either Minnesota got in the way of it and didn't want to let him go, or I think Rosales spoke to a Honduran paper recently, was saying that they either didn't let me go or one of them came in really late and it was just kind of too late to get a deal done. But it seems like he wanted to make a big move and they just kind of didn't let him. So I'm hoping that means he's hungry and wants to come in and make put his stamp here. But I think it also means that if he comes in and can perform for a year, that maybe Austin would sell him. If Roto gets that call, he's not going to say no like the Minnesota front office did.
The call from Europe? Yeah, I don't think so. So you've said the word left back several times. Austin currently has 2 or 3 left backs on the roster. What do we make of that? I guess, do you think it's more likely that he's a replacement for Biro and Biro is going to move to the bench, or do you think there's a corresponding outgoing move at some point in the offseason?
I think there has to be a corresponding move. I don't think it necessarily has to be Biro. Biro, I think, would be the most logical one if we're saying Biro is a left back / wing back. And that is what Rosales is. He has played some central midfield before, but I don't know that that's his strongest position. I think he is much more valuable playing as an attacking fullback or a wing back that likes to push forward. And so I don't think we should expect like they're buying him to move him into midfield. That doesn't make sense to me. So I think you get rid of Biro and try to cash in on him because we got him fairly cheap and his salary is quite low. So there would be some value there. Or if we're saying Biro is going to be like a center back or something like that, we're going to move him into the center back in the back three. And then you have Rosales and Kolmanic as your like left wing backs. It still feels a little bit crowded to me. And so maybe you say we sell Kolmanic, even though we're planning on playing Biro in the back three. We have quite a few center backs now. So we have the option of where we play Biro. And then we have Gallagher can play both sides in a pinch as well. So you're kind of covered there while still being able to cash in on one of your surplus of left backs.
Okay, so I think Gallagher then makes me want to transition back to Jaden Nelson, because Gallagher is a fullback, a wingback, and sometimes a winger. Now you've got Nelson in along with everything else. So now we could look at 5 at the back, we could look at 4 at the back. Like, there's a lot of options here. Do you have what's in your head on maybe one of the reasons behind these moves?
Right now, it's saying to me that we're looking at running more 5 at the back and playing 3 center backs and 2 wing backs who are going to attack and kind of be the width providers for the most part, or getting forward. I don't know necessarily being width, but they're going to get into the attacking half of the field with regularity. I don't know that we can definitively say that right now, because I do expect, like I said before, outbound moves. I think everyone who's on the roster is not going to be on the roster in the next month or so. And so who does he sell? Like, which person leaves next? I think that says a lot about what direction they're going. I think it's also like Nelson plays into this as well, where I saw some people pitching him as playing as a wing back. Maybe you can do that. I don't think it's his strongest position. I don't think it's the best use of his skills. So I don't really want to play him at wing back, but you could, and maybe have it to where he's not quite tracking back as far. But like, whenever you get pinned back by San Diego or Columbus, like a team that uses the ball, where he's going to be standing is in our defensive box, right? Like inside the 18. That's not where you want Jaden Nelson. You want him pushed up a little higher. We win the ball. You can launch him forward. That's where he's going to be most useful in that kind of system. So I don't like the idea of playing him wing back. But when you're looking at, like, how do we get Uzuni and Vasquez and Owen Wolf and Jaden Nelson and our 2, like Dessler and Rosales and 3 center back, like, it gets crowded and it doesn't make sense anymore. So that's where like the big question marks are. And like, Vasquez isn't going to be back immediately, so that gives you some flexibility to kind of find those pieces. And maybe Roto does that and tests it out and tries out some things, and he can figure out who he wants to get rid of and who he wants to keep. But it's confusing right now. I don't think what we're seeing right now paints a very clear picture, and it probably doesn't, because it's not the final picture.
Yeah, and that Vasquez point is one I wanted to make sure that we brought up. Knowing with the break, with his recovery time and with the break for the World Cup and with the summer window, like, it's entirely possible that if the right deal doesn't come along, you just sit on this roster because you don't have to consider space for Brandon Vasquez. And then you've got another window in the summer when maybe he's back and you have some time with the guys. And that's not going to make a big difference for this current season, as we know, because the window's, well, I guess it won't be quite as late this year because of when the break happens. But, you know, you could just sit on what you have and then see how it all shakes out. And then when Vasquez comes back, then you have to make that choice.
Yeah, I think to a degree. I still think even without Vasquez, it is still a weird lineup to configure in either a 4-3-3 or a 4-4-2 or a 5-3-1-2, whatever numbers in whatever order you want to name. I find it difficult to put a starting 11 that makes a ton of sense out there. So stay tuned. I think we're not done. So I think I'm hoping these kind of questions will become more clear in the near future. We hoped that last year too, and it didn't. So we could be wrong, but we're hoping that it becomes a bit more clear as more moves happen.
Yeah, but you have to just looking through this current Austin FC roster at the end of this, when this Rosales move is made, like, it's more talented overall, which I know we said last year, going into last year, talking about that team versus the 2024 team. But at least there are some choices to be made almost everywhere across the field at this point in time. So, like, it feels like the floor continues to grow. There's just not the high-end creator talent that we need to help the ceiling increase.
Yeah.
And Moon Tower Soccer is brought to you by Sage Wilson Realty. The Sage Wilson team is made up of Austin's experts who are client-focused and have over 30 years of combined real estate experience.
If you or someone you know are in need of Sage real estate advice in Austin, talk to our friends at Sage Wilson Realty. Be sure to check them out online at sagewilson.com.
And our premier sponsor is McGuire Woods Consulting, helping clients in the public affairs space, from lobbying at the local, statewide, and federal levels to digital and communications campaigns across the country.
McGuire Woods Consulting has offices in 10 MLS cities, but only supports this podcast because... Why Chris Wellhausen?
Because despite what that ref took from us in the final, this is the greatest team in the world.
That's right. Contact our friends at McGuire Woods Consulting at mwcllc.com for more information. What else do we want to cover here? I have a list of like a few things I like about these two incoming guys.
Okay.
Both guys can take set pieces, so I'm hoping they could maybe take over for Wolf in that department, which A, hopefully they're better than Wolf at it and just raises the floor there, but B, you get Owen into the box where he's proven to be quite dangerous. So I like that. Both of these guys are dogs with a W. They are fighters on the field. They play with heat, play with intensity. It feels like Nelson, for the most part, keeps it fairly contained. He shows the fire, but doesn't get in trouble for it. I looked back at all of his yellows and reds. It's mostly for like overly aggressive tackles. It's very rarely for dissent or punching somebody or doing something stupid like that. So I think his fire, he has it pretty well contained. Rosales, on the other hand, has had some issues with stuff like that. I know we all want to headbutt Jesus Ferreira, but you shouldn't do it on the field where it's going to hurt your team. And he did that last year. He also had this incident where he was accused of saying something racist on the field. It's disputed. There's very murky. Nobody knows exactly what happens. If that is true, if he did that, I hope that is the thing that he learned from. He is a young player, comes from, this is kind of a delicate subject, so I hope I don't put my foot in my mouth here, but Spanish-speaking countries there's like a different way of using certain words and certain things. I'm not defending it. I'm not saying it's okay, but you can imagine a 23-year-old, 24-year-old kid who's only been in this country for a couple of years might not quite understand that. I'm hoping he was open to that feedback, open to that criticism, and has learned from it, grown from it, because I don't know that Austin fans are going to be super receptive of a guy who says like, no, actually, it's not a problem. I didn't do anything wrong.
Fine. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. So I guess
all that to say, like, he does let a hot head get the best of him on the field sometimes. That being said, he does use that fire to his advantage and is strong, will hold guys off of the ball, really skillful on the ball for a defender especially. So both these guys are exciting to watch. They're raising the floor. I think they are better, more complete players than the other guys at their positions that we have right now. So I'm calling these positives for sure.
that answers the big question. It seems like it'll help answer the big question where the poophousery comes from without Diego Rubio. Feels like between these two guys, you get plenty of that. Like, we worry every time a guy like that goes out. There's more than we know within the league that can come in and fill that spot. These guys sound like they'll be able to do it.
Yeah. One other thing about these guys is when you look at the trade amount or the transfer amount, it might feel like a lot of money. And with the Rosales, maybe it's a cash trade, and that there's some interesting accounting going on that I don't know that will become entirely clear until some other moves are made either. But we're spending a lot of money on these guys. But when you look at their contracts, Jaden Nelson is his MLSPA guaranteed salary release last year was $1,000. But the roster, the contract length, he's on 3 years plus 1. So we have him locked up for the next 4 years on a pretty friendly deal that if he can reach the potential that people think that he has, that is a great contract. And even if he reaches half the potential that people think he has and just had the year that he did last year, he's still on less money and performing better than all of our wingers, who are all making more money than him. And Rosales is on 2 years plus one, $500K, a little bit more expensive, but also a more established player. Long contracts for, if you like balance that out of what you're spending for what you're getting contract and salary wise, it's not that bad. And I would say quite good for the most part. And I think it's like kind of a trend that Roto has done where he doesn't mind spending to get good contracts on the books. And so we have this core of younger guys with upside on lowish salaries who are locked in, and he's trying to build that core of the team. It's a good idea. I like the strategy. We'll find out if he's doing a good job of it based on how these guys progress, how they fit into the team. But I think doing that is a good strategy of building this core and then trying to bring in some different makers with the DPs on top. He's been bad at that part so far. We'll see what he can do going forward. But building that core, I like that strategy a lot.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the way that if you're a team like Austin that doesn't have the appeal of LA or Miami, and you're not going to be able to get people who take lower contracts to play with Messi, like Dane St. Clair, like this is
Right.
a solid way to do it.
What else do we need to cover here, Jeremiah?
I think we've done enough for an off week. I think we can save the rest of the news of the week for next week. Exciting times. I mean, I think this week is probably bigger than I thought the whole offseason might be. So the fact that there are possibly other moves ahead is really exciting. And it feels like even with what we thought was not a ton of roster flexibility going in, again, this is considering also the fact that there are 2 buyouts. Like there's a lot of chance for this team to change in a way that I believe to be in the cards a month ago when this season ended.
Yeah, it's kind of what I hoped would happen, but didn't really expect to happen. And it's happening right now. So I think one thing to look at, again, Roto loves his MLS roster mechanisms. I wouldn't be shocked to see some more moves from within the league. We'll keep our fingers crossed for that Diego Luna cash trade.
Yeah,
but
love that one.
I wouldn't be shocked to see some others happening, either incoming or outgoing. Yeah, we had the super draft last week. We had the new divisions that was that officially or just
it's
like
still rumored, but it's
Paul
very,
Tenorio
very
official?
solid. Yeah. Yes.
But yeah, we'll wait and cover more of that in the future. Hopefully we covered enough and answered enough questions about these moves in this crazy week. But yeah, it's not over. So we'll have more to talk about here in the near future, I'm betting. All right, before we wrap up, we would like to remind you to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Come find us on the internet, wherever you are. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back next week, maybe a couple days late we're still figuring out that schedule. We might do a regular show and Moon Tower After Dark. Jeremiah, did we decide this?
We have not 100% decided that, and this is somewhat dependent upon whether any news happens, but I would say we can do this live on air. My preference, given if there's nothing else happens between now and then that's worth talking about, we just do a Moon Tower After Dark and work the 2 things that we talked about into that.
We'll do the news a little bit drunk.
Yes.
So if we do that, then it might be a little bit late. If we don't, we might have 2 episodes that week. So we put an announcement at the top of the show, but let's do it again here. We're going to do Moon Tower After Dark. You can find a link to submit questions in the show notes. We're also going to post it to the Patreon and probably give some preference to our Patreon folks. But if you want to hear us answer a question about kind of whatever you can think, be it soccer or otherwise, it's going to be the same crew, me and Jeremiah, Steph and Mike. Sober Mike's going to be our MC/host/question asker. I think that's all for that. And we're also doing our New Year's Day hangout. We're going to change locations this year. We're going to do it at Turnstile, which is also right there next to the stadium. We're saying 2:00, Jeremiah?
2:00.
All right, yeah. Meet us there. I think we're going to try to buy maybe some appetizers. We'll have something to give you for your time and effort of coming out and hanging out. But yeah, this is a tradition we did back in the day before, when it was a hole in the ground in a construction site where we go out, hang out, dream about a team playing. So we like to do that every year and kind of celebrate the fact that we do have a team to follow now. And we have all these people that we've met through this team to spend time with. So yeah, y'all come out. That'll be a great time. Anything else, Jeremiah? Are we good?
No, I think we're good. I hope you and everybody out there has like a great Christmas, happy holiday, whatever you celebrate. Have you heard There's a song by the Doohickeys called Merry Happy Whatever to You, which is now my
I don't know that one.
it's my mantra for the holiday season. So whatever you celebrate, enjoy it.
All right, we will be back next week, maybe once, maybe twice, maybe late. Who knows? Pay attention to your feed. But until then, I'm Landon Cottom.
I'm Jeremiah Bentley.
We'll catch you next time.
When no one is around.
Think for nothing, you never.
La gente.
Oh my God.
Zula Chup Boom Boom sauce.
Yeah.
Perfect. And now let's do the end and say, Merry Christmas, you filthy animals.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animals.
Perfect. Good job, dude.
Nailed it, Vince.